The cameras had barely stopped rolling when chaos erupted inside VH1's production offices. The atmosphere that morning was tense to quiet, to charged, and everyone could feel that something was about to explode. Whispers filled the hallways. Rumors about one of the producers who had seen too much and was ready to risk everything to tell the truth. By lunchtime, that whisper turned into a storm, and by sundown, 3 staff members were escorted out, suspended indefinitely. The official story said it was a misunderstanding, but insiders knew this wasn't just about a small disagreement. This was about money, power, and betrayal. For years, the cast of Love and Hip Hop had complained about unfair pay, but it wasn't until a certain producer someone fans once trusted decided to leak internal documents that the house of cards started to fall. The leak revealed shocking numbers. Some stars were earning triple what others made for the same screen time. One name in particular, Rashida Frost, stood out on the list, and it sent shockwaves through the VH1 family. "It's not just a show anymore," one insider whispered, "it's a battlefield." The moment those numbers went public, fans flooded social media. Hashtags like #VH1Exposed and #PayTheCast started trending within hours. Hundreds of angry comments poured in, demanding justice. The internet wanted to know why were women, especially black women, being paid less while the network profited from their drama. And even more disturbing, why were certain producers silenced whenever they tried to speak up? Behind the scenes, things were even uglier. The producer who leaked the files had already been warned by the network. A week earlier, she had been called into a private meeting with senior executives. "Stay in your lane," they told her. "This is bigger than you." But instead of backing down, she hit record on her phone, documenting everything, every threat, every denial, every lie. And then came the moment that changed everything. During a routine staff meeting, she stood up, trembling but defiant, and said, "If y'all can't handle the truth, then fire me, but I'm not gonna let another woman cry in that dressing room because she found out she's being underpaid." That sentence broke the silence that had haunted the building for years. People gasped. One assistant burst into tears, and within hours, security escorted her out of the studio. By the next morning, word had spread like wildfire. Major blogs were calling it the VH1 rebellion. Insiders claimed that several staffers were suspended for complicity, though no one really knew what that meant. What we do know is this: a network built on secrets was finally being exposed by its own people. The question now is, who leaked the files? And what was the real motive? Was it revenge, justice, or something even darker? As fans demand answers, VH1 scrambles to clean up the mess. But one thing is certain: this isn't just another reality TV scandal. This is the day a producer exposed the truth, and it might just destroy VH1 from the inside out. The night after the suspension news broke, the VH1 offices were silent. But the silence wasn't peaceful, it was the kind that burns under the surface, waiting to explode. Everyone knew the producer at the center of it all, Layla Torres. She had been with the network for almost a decade, a name respected but rarely mentioned outside the walls of production. Layla wasn't flashy, she wasn't dramatic, but she saw everything. She saw who got bonuses and who didn't, who was called family and who was quietly replaced, who got private dressing rooms and who shared corners of storage spaces. For years, she kept her head down and played the game, until one incident made her snap. It wasn't the money, it was the humiliation. During a pre-shoot dinner meeting, a male producer joked that the women on set should smile more if they wanted bigger checks. Laughter filled the room. Layla didn't laugh. Something in her broke that day, and she decided to keep receiving emails, contracts, payslips, even text threads between execs. Every single thing they tried to hide, she started collecting in a folder labeled Sunlight. By the time the Jamaica spin-off of Love and Hip Hop was being filmed, tensions were already high. Rashida was rumored to be frustrated with the budget cuts. Kirk was allegedly furious over travel arrangements, and Jasmine had threatened to walk off after a wardrobe delay. While the cast argued over scenes, Layla sat quietly behind her monitor, watching every moment, every fake apology, every tear that wasn't in the script. She knew the numbers by heart. Rashida's paycheck for one episode could cover the entire wardrobe team for a month. Spice, who had headlined the Jamaica episodes, was furious when she learned she was paid less, despite her fanbase being the biggest in the franchise. Layla had seen the email where an executive called Spice's negotiation unrealistic for her market value. Those words haunted her. The night before the confrontation, Layla met privately with a trusted colleague, Janelle. They sat in the production van outside a Jamaican beach resort, with the ocean in the background and their laptops glowing between them. Janelle whispered, "You're playing with fire, girl. You know they don't forgive leaks." Layla replied softly, "They don't forgive the truth either." She opened her laptop, revealing the spreadsheet of pay disparities. It was brutal. The numbers spoke louder than any statement ever could. She took a deep breath and said, "If they suspend me for this, fine, but someone has to say it out loud." The next day, filming resumed. The cast was shooting a dinner scene, fake smiles, champagne, and apologies that meant nothing. But just off camera, something real was brewing. Layla received a message from an anonymous VH1 insider. "They're cutting your access after this shoot. You've been flagged." Her heart raced. She turned to Janelle and whispered, "It's starting." Minutes later, her email login failed. Her phone buzzed 3 missed calls from management. She didn't answer. Instead, she hit upload. Within seconds, her private drive link started spreading across group chats, blogs, and industry servers. By evening, chaos. The VH1 executives were summoned to an emergency meeting, phones confiscated, statements drafted, lawyers pacing hallways. One exec shouted, "Who gave her access to payroll files?" Another replied, "Everyone has access until we pay them to stay quiet." But it was too late. The damage was viral. Shade Room picked it up first. Exclusive VH1 insider leaks pay gap files, fans demand answers. The post exploded. The comments were relentless. How is Rashida making triple what Spice earns? Why is production staff being paid peanuts? VH1 profiting off black pain again. Within hours, fans had tagged nearly every cast member demanding they speak out. Meanwhile, Layla sat in her small apartment back in Atlanta, staring at her phone as messages flooded in. Some were supportive, others threatening. One message stood out. It was from a blocked number. "You think you're a hero, but we made this industry. Don't forget that." She ignored it and turned on the TV. Every entertainment show was talking about her leak. Even CNN Entertainment ran a segment titled VH1 Pay Discrimination Scandal. What really happens behind the cameras? She couldn't believe it. Something she'd been too scared to say for years was now global. Back at the network, damage control went into overdrive. Senior producer Derek Wade called an emergency meeting. "We have 2 goals," he barked. "Contain this and protect the brand." When someone asked if they should issue a public statement, Derek snapped, "Absolutely not. The more we talk, the more guilty we look." But someone in that room disagreed. Another producer, Monica, stood up and said, "You can't silence this. People are talking. Maybe it's time to tell the truth." Derek glared at her. "You want to end your career too?" Outside that room, the cast had already formed sides. Rashida refused to comment publicly but allegedly texted Layla privately, "I didn't know about any of this. Thank you for speaking up." Spice went live on Instagram, saying, "If these numbers are true, I want answers from VH1, not excuses." Carly Red reposted Spice's live with a caption that read, "We all knew something wasn't right." In just 12 hours, the scandal had turned into a movement. But as fans rallied, the network retaliated. They suspended 3 producers, including Janelle, accusing them of negligence and unauthorized data exposure. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The people who spoke up were punished, while those who ignored the problem kept their bonuses. Insiders whispered that Derek Wade personally approved the suspensions as a warning to others. "Keep quiet, or you're next." Layla's phone rang again. It was Monica, her only ally left inside. "They're trying to build a case against you," she said. "Urgently, they're calling it breach of confidentiality. They want to sue you for damages." Layla exhaled, trembling. "Let them. I have recordings. If they take me to court, everything comes out." By nightfall, #Justice for Layla was trending. Fans created petitions, demanding VH1 reinstate her. Former cast members like Joseline Hernandez and Mimi Faust weighed in, saying the pay gap was the industry's worst-kept secret. Gossip blogs framed Layla as a whistleblower, calling her the Erin Brockovich of reality TV. But for VH1, the nightmare was just beginning. Advertisers started pulling out. Sponsors demanded clarity. One brand, after seeing their logo under a trending scandal, tweeted, "We take equality seriously and are reevaluating our partnership." Inside VH1 headquarters, panic reached its peak. Someone leaked that the network had hired private investigators to trace Layla's digital activity. But what they didn't realize was that she had already shared her evidence with multiple journalists. Even if they silenced her, the story was unstoppable now. As Layla told Monica in a whispered call, "They can suspend people, but they can't suspend the truth." And yet, deep inside, Layla knew she was in danger. She noticed a black SUV parked near her apartment for 2 nights straight. She started receiving strange calls with no sound. Once, she came home to find her apartment door slightly open, But nothing stolen, just her documents shuffled. Fear crept in, but she refused to back down. "They can scare me," she said in a recorded diary entry, "but I'm not deleting the truth." The next morning, as the sun rose over Atlanta, VH1 officially released its first public statement. "We take these allegations seriously and are conducting an internal review," but fans saw through it. Comments flooded the post. Translation: "They got caught." Others wrote, "Stop firing the truth-tellers." The network hoped the scandal would fade within days. It didn't. Instead, new evidence surfaced: an anonymous file showing that certain cast members were paid image bonuses to control narratives. Among them was Kirk Frost, listed as a reputation consultant. Fans couldn't believe it. They were paying Kirk to look like the victim. One tweet went viral with 80,000 likes. And that's when VH1's biggest mistake happened. In their rush to clean up, they accidentally released a redacted email chain that revealed something shocking. A senior executive admitted, "If this leaks to the press, we lose control of the franchise." The leak proved it wasn't just about pay, it was about manipulation, racism, and protecting certain faces for profit. As the scandal spiraled, one thing became clear. VH1 was no longer in control of the narrative. Layla Torres had cracked open a system built on silence, and nothing would ever be the same again. The days following the leak felt unreal for everyone involved. Layla Torres had become a symbol, whether she wanted to or not. While fans painted her as a hero, inside VH1, her name was forbidden. Employees were told to avoid mentioning her, even in private group chats. One intern accidentally forwarded a meme comparing her to Rosa Parks of reality TV, and was terminated by the end of the day. Meanwhile, Layla's story was everywhere. Talk shows debated it, podcasts dissected it, and major outlets described her as the woman who shook VH1 to its core. But the truth was, behind the applause and headlines, Layla was isolated, broke, and scared. Her legal team warned her not to talk publicly. Yet she couldn't sleep without replaying the last moments before she hit upload. On the other side, Derek Wade was losing his grip. Sponsors had suspended ad deals. The Jamaica spin-off was temporarily shelved, and staff morale was shattered. He tried to project calm during meetings, but everyone saw the panic in his eyes. "We need a distraction," he muttered one evening, pacing his glass office. "A new storyline, something bigger than this scandal." Another exec suggested leaking a fake pregnancy rumor involving a major cast member. "That's insane," Derek snapped. "But maybe insane is what we need right now." That same night, a blogger named Tasha Rain posted a cryptic tweet. "A producer says the VH1 pay scandal is just the beginning. There's footage they don't want y'all to see." The internet went wild. People began speculating what footage she meant. Some thought it was behind-the-scenes clips of cast members complaining about pay. Others believed it was something far worse. Within hours, #VH1 tapes started trending. Derek ordered an emergency sweep of all servers. But the rumor had already done its job. Fans were now demanding transparency. Layla, meanwhile, sat in her apartment with Janelle, scrolling through social media. "They're turning this into a circus," she whispered. "This isn't what I wanted." Janelle, sipping coffee, replied quietly, "They're scared. That's what scared people do, they distract." Layla leaned back, staring at the ceiling. "Maybe it's time I tell them what's really on those tapes." 2 days later, Layla appeared on a live-streamed interview with an independent journalist. She looked exhausted but composed. Her voice shook as she said, "What I leaked was only the beginning. There's video evidence and released footage that shows how production manipulated cast conflicts, edited arguments to fit certain narratives, and intentionally downplayed specific voices." The interviewer leaned forward. "Are you saying the show was staged to exploit certain people?" Layla nodded. "Yes. And they made sure the people being exploited were the ones who couldn't afford to fight back." The clip spread like wildfire. Within an hour, the #VH1 Truth replaced #VH1 Exposed. Fans demanded that VH1 release the footage or face a boycott. Celebrities joined the chorus. Actors, activists, and even politicians tweeted support for Layla. One viral post read, "If networks can profit off Black pain, they should also pay Black creators fairly." By midnight, VH1's stock value had dropped 5%. Inside headquarters, Derek slammed his phone on the table. "She's killing us," he shouted. "We need to shut her down legally." The legal team moved fast. Within 24 hours, Layla received a cease and desist letter accusing her of defamation, data theft, and breach of contract. Her lawyer, an older woman named Marilyn, read it aloud. "They're bluffing," Marilyn said. "They don't want discovery. If this goes to court, their files become public." Layla exhaled. "So we fight." Marilyn smiled faintly. We fight. While lawyers prepared, VH1 executives plotted their own counterattack. They arranged a private press meeting, off the record, where they fed selective information to friendly journalists. One headline appeared the next morning. VH1 producer fabricated pay gap story for personal gain. The smear campaign began. Social media bots flooded timelines with anti-Layla comments, claiming she had been paid by a rival network. They're trying to bury me, she said to Janelle. They won't stop until everyone doubts me. Janelle nodded. Then don't let them own the story. Tell it yourself. So Layla decided to go public again. This time, she uploaded a short clip directly to her own page, footage from behind the scenes of Love and Hip Hop Jamaica. In it, an executive could be heard saying, "Keep the cameras rolling. I want Spice to look ungrateful." Gasps filled the internet. The clip went viral instantly, accumulating millions of views overnight. Spice herself reposted it, captioning it, "Now y'all see what we were dealing with." Fans erupted. Derek Wade panicked. He called the board at 3 a.m., screaming, "Who had that footage?" No one answered. His assistant quietly informed him the clip came from Layla's external drive, one he thought had been wiped months ago. She had backups, the assistant whispered. Derek rubbed his temples. "We're finished." But VH1 wasn't just finished, it was unraveling. More employees came forward anonymously, sending journalists screenshots, emails, and call logs proving the manipulation extended far beyond paychecks. Storylines were engineered, reputations destroyed for ratings, and producers were rewarded for causing on-screen meltdowns. One leaked memo even encouraged strategic emotional escalation. The phrase alone trended for 2 days. In response, former cast members began holding live streams titled The Real Love and Hip Hop. They shared stories of exhaustion, exploitation, and emotional breakdowns caused by producers. Mimi Faust said, "They made me cry for ratings, and when I tried to quit, they told me my contract owned my pain." Jocelyn Hernandez posted, "I told y'all years ago this was dirty. Now the world sees it." But amid the chaos, Layla received an unexpected message, an encrypted email from someone claiming to be a current VH1 executive. It read, "They're planning to announce internal terminations to shift blame. They'll fire more staff tomorrow. They want to name you as the cause of their losses." Attached was a screenshot of the plan, labeled Project Clean Slate. Layla stared at it for a long time, her hands trembling. "They're sacrificing people," she whispered. The next day, VH1 announced the suspension of 5 additional employees, calling it part of a necessary restructuring. Fans saw through it immediately. "They're scapegoating," one commenter wrote. Another said, "They're punishing everyone except the real culprits." Even journalists refused to buy the narrative. By now, the scandal had evolved from a network controversy to a global conversation about media ethics and race in entertainment. As pressure mounted, Derek made one last desperate move. He contacted Monica, offering her a deal. "Help me frame Layla," he said bluntly, "and you'll get your job back. Plus a raise." Monica, disgusted, recorded the call. Later, she sent the recording to Layla, who forwarded it straight to the press. Within hours, a new headline surfaced: VH1 exec caught offering bribes to silence whistleblower. Derek's career was over. But the network wasn't the only one falling apart. Layla's personal life was crumbling too. Her mother stopped answering calls, afraid of the media attention. Her rent was overdue. She was being sued, praised, and hunted all at once. One night, as thunder echoed outside her window, she broke down. "Maybe I should have stayed quiet," she whispered to herself. But then her phone lit up thousands of new messages. People thanking her, telling her they finally had the courage to speak up at their own jobs. One message read, "You gave us our voice back." She smiled weakly through tears. Then it was worth it. That same week, a bombshell dropped. A well-known journalist announced they had obtained a complete archive of VH1's internal communications, screenshots, memos, voice notes, the full truth. Fans waited breathlessly as the journalist promised a live expose titled Inside the Network, the VH1 Paygate Scandal. Derek tried to stop the broadcast with legal threats, but it was too late. The countdown had begun, and the world was about to see everything VH1 had tried to bury. When the expose finally aired, it felt like the entire internet stopped breathing. The journalist began with a calm voice, saying, "What you're about to see will change how you view reality television forever." The first clip showed internal VH1 emails discussing salary disparities, executives laughing over who could be paid less without complaint. The next file contained voice recordings from private meetings where producers mocked cast members who requested raises. The room filled with gasps as viewers realized the manipulation wasn't just creative editing. It was systemic exploitation disguised as entertainment. Hashtags erupted instantly. Hashtag VH1 Paygate. Hashtag reality TV corruption. Hashtag stand with Layla. Within an hour, millions were watching live, dissecting every frame, every quote, every receipt. Derek Wade appeared briefly in one of the leaked recordings. His voice was unmistakable. "They signed contracts," he said coldly. "If they didn't read them, that's not our problem." Those 12 words ended his career in real time. The comments section exploded. "That's the real villain," one user wrote. "This man built an empire off exploitation," said another. The journalist paused dramatically before revealing the next file on unreleased meeting note labeled Image Hierarchy Matrix. It ranked cast members by monetization potential, brand cleanliness, and controversy tolerance. It was clear the network had literally assigned value to human drama. Layla, watching from home, whispered, "There it is, the blueprint." As the broadcast continued, the narrative shifted. The journalist played clips of Layla's recordings, voices of executives discussing ways to silence her. One said, "Make her look unstable. Dig up something. Anything." Another replied, "If she won't shut up, we'll shut her out." The audience's reaction was instant outrage. Hundreds of thousands of tweets poured in, calling for full accountability. Advertisers started dropping public statements, cutting ties with VH1. One cosmetics brand posted, "We support creators, not corporations that exploit them." VH1's social pages went dark for 24 hours, their silence only fueling the fire. Meanwhile, Layla's lawyer Marilyn prepared for the inevitable counterstrike. "They're going to come after you with everything," she warned. Layla nodded, her expression steady. "Then we'll meet them head on." Within days, Marilyn filed a counter-lawsuit accusing VH1 of retaliation and workplace discrimination. It became national news, the first major legal challenge against a reality TV network for systemic inequality. Law firms, unions, and advocacy groups rallied behind her. Even a former VH1 executive anonymously donated to her legal fund, leaving a message, "You're doing what we never had the courage to." Back at the network, panic spiraled into chaos. Derek was suspended pending investigation. But his replacement executive vice president Renee Carter was just as ruthless. Renee gathered remaining staff and said coldly, "We either control the narrative, or we die with it." She ordered a rebranding strategy. New logos, new slogans, new shows to shift focus. But the world wasn't ready to move on. Fans demanded reparations for underpaid cast members. Entertainment lawyers began forming a coalition to audit contracts across reality TV. The scandal had grown. Beyond VH1, it was becoming an industry reckoning. Still, the network tried to fight back. They leaked a private photo of Layla from a staff party, trying to portray her as unprofessional. It backfired spectacularly. Social media rallied again, calling the smear campaign disgusting and desperate. Layla responded with one tweet that went viral instantly. "You can leak my photos, but I already leaked your truth." That tweet became legendary. Printed on shirts, used in protests, quoted in speeches. Layla Torres was no longer just a whistleblower, she was a movement. One night, as Marilyn and Layla prepared for an upcoming court hearing, a new message arrived from an anonymous source. Attached was a zip folder, labeled The Lost Season. Inside were unreleased clips, production notes, and emails revealing that an entire season of Love and Hip Hop, Jamaica had been shelved after a physical altercation between cast members allegedly caused by producer manipulation. The footage showed executives encouraging confrontation, pushing emotional buttons, and even staging false betrayals for ratings. Marilyn's hands shook as she watched. "This is criminal," she whispered. Layla stared at the screen. They played with people's lives. Word of the lost season spread quickly. Fans demanded VH1 release it, calling it evidence of abuse. The network refused, claiming the footage does not represent our values. But the damage was irreversible. Several cast members began breaking their NDAs, sharing behind-the-scenes stories that matched the leaked clips. One revealed she had been pressured to fake a breakup for a storyline. Another said producers manipulated her into fighting by threatening to cut her pay. The pattern was undeniable. VH1 wasn't documenting reality, it was manufacturing pain. By now, the pressure on VH1 had reached boiling point. An emergency board meeting was called. Renee Carter stood at the head of the table, flanked by exhausted executives. "We can't survive another week of this," one of them said quietly. "The advertisers are gone, the lawyers are circling, and the talent refuses to film." Renee clenched her jaw. "Then we shut down production temporarily. Issue a statement. Blame a third party." Another exec protested. People won't believe it anymore. We've lied too many times. Renee slammed her fist on the table. We make them believe. While the corporate world scrambled, Layla's public image soared. She was invited to speak on talk shows, podcasts, and panels about fairness in entertainment. Fans started calling her the woman who exposed Hollywood's dirtiest secret. But beneath her calm interviews, Layla carried the weight of everything she'd lost: her job, her friends, her sense of normalcy. Late at night, she'd replay old voicemails from coworkers who no longer dared to speak to her. In one, Janelle's voice cracked as she whispered, "They're coming for everyone who helped you. Please stay safe." A week later, things took a darker turn. Janelle disappeared. She stopped replying to messages, her phone disconnected, her apartment empty. Layla panicked. She contacted local police, but they dismissed her, saying there was no sign of foul play. Marilyn urged her to stay calm, but Layla couldn't. "This isn't coincidence," she insisted. "They're cleaning up loose ends." That night, she received an anonymous text, "Don't dig further." Janelle made her choice. She dropped her phone, her heart racing. As days passed, rumors grew wilder. Conspiracy channels claimed VH1 had paid hush money to multiple former employees. A whistleblower site published redacted documents showing off-the-record payments labeled contract resolution fees. Layla's supporters demanded the FBI get involved, while skeptics argued she was exaggerating. But then, one morning, a new video surfaced: grainy security footage, showing two men entering Janelle's apartment building the night she vanished. Their faces were blurred, but one wore a badge lanyard that looked strikingly similar to VH1's security credentials. The internet exploded again. "This isn't just corporate drama anymore," one journalist tweeted. "This is turning into a cover-up." Layla, now fearing for her safety, moved into a private location under legal protection. Marilyn arranged for secure communication and advised her to avoid public appearances. But Layla refused to disappear. "They want me gone," she said in a recorded statement. "But I'll finish what I started. I'll tell the world everything." She began compiling her full archive: emails, footage, transcripts sent to one massive file labeled The Truth Project. She planned to release it anonymously if anything happened to her. Her final words in that recording were haunting. "If you're watching this, it means they tried to silence me." The next morning, news broke that VH1's headquarters in New York had been raided by federal investigators. Reporters swarmed the building as boxes of documents were carried out. Insiders claimed the raid was linked to fraudulent accounting and suppression of whistleblower complaints. Social media exploded with celebration. Fans declared it the day reality became real. And somewhere, in a small safe house, Layla watched it all unfold, whispering, "Finally." But she knew it wasn't over. Because deep down, she suspected the most explosive files, the ones about the network's connections to even larger entertainment conglomerates, hadn't surfaced yet. She closed her laptop and said quietly, "The real war's just beginning." As federal investigators swarmed VH1's New York headquarters, the once untouchable empire of reality TV finally began to crack from within. Agents were seen carrying out boxes of documents, computers, and hard drives marked with evidence tags. For years, the network had hidden behind polished edits and glittering red carpets. But now the curtain was gone. The world was watching in real time. Outside the building, protesters gathered holding signs that read, "Pay the truth," "Stop selling pain," and "Justice for Janelle." Camera crews filled the streets, capturing the chaos as if it were just another episode of Love and Hip Hop. Only this time, there was no script, no retakes, just reality. Inside the building, Renee Carter sat in her glass office, hands trembling as she watched her empire crumble. "How did it come to this?" she muttered. One of her assistants whispered, "It started the day you ignored Layla." Renee shot her a cold glare but didn't respond. Her phone buzzed: a message from corporate lawyers. "Prepare for potential arrest. Do not delete anything." Her heart pounded. She looked out the window at the swarm of flashing cameras below and knew the truth she'd buried was now her cage. Meanwhile, Layla watched the live coverage from her safe house, tears in her eyes. Marilyn sat beside her, calm but alert. "You did this," Marilyn said softly. "They thought you were just a voice. You became a revolution." Layla shook her head slowly. "This isn't victory yet," she whispered. "They're still hiding the deeper files. What we saw today, this is just surface." Marilyn looked at her curiously. "You mean there's more?" Layla nodded. "So much more." She opened her encrypted drive, labeled The Truth Project. Inside were hundreds of folders, emails, payment records, secret memos, and a folder marked Shadow Files. It contained internal correspondence between VH1 and a powerful entertainment conglomerate that owned multiple networks. In those messages, executives discussed coordinated manipulation of shows to reinforce stereotypes for profit. One line stood out. Audience engagement rises 40%. When black female cast members are in conflict, sustain the tension. Layla stared at it in silence. This was the proof of something bigger, darker, and deliberate. They weren't just underpaying people, she said. They were programming bias. She turned to Marilyn. We need to release this. Marilyn hesitated. If you drop this, you're not just taking down VH1. You're taking on an entire corporate empire. Layla took a deep breath. Then let's see how deep this goes. Back in New York, the executives scrambled. Renee Carter met with crisis managers in a closed conference room. We have to stop her before she leaks again, one consultant said. Then find her. Renee snapped. I don't care what it takes. An intern overheard and secretly recorded the entire meeting, later sending the clip to an independent journalist. By the next morning, the world knew VH1 was actively hunting its own whistleblower. Outrage grew. Celebrities began speaking out, calling for protection for industry. One tweet from K. Michelle went viral. This isn't just a TV scandal. This is about every woman who was told her story wasn't worth paying for. Meanwhile, Layla's Truth Project began spreading quietly across the internet through anonymous drops. Bloggers, journalists, and even college students shared fragments of it on social platforms. Each piece was more damning than the last. One email revealed that producers were given bonuses for manipulating cast emotions to create viral meltdowns. Another document showed that psychological evaluations were used not to protect participants, but to identify vulnerabilities producers could exploit for drama. Fans were horrified. The comments were relentless. They built a billion-dollar brand off people's trauma. They made entertainment out of pain. Cancel the whole system. Renee Carter's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Sponsors had pulled out entirely. Networks were cutting ties. And now the Department of Labor had announced a full investigation into reality TV employment practices. They're turning this into a political issue, she hissed. Her deputy replied nervously. It already is. Congress wants hearings. The word hearings made Renee's blood run cold. Once politicians got involved, there would be no hiding. As the pressure intensified, something unexpected happened. A former VH1 board member, Gregory Sherman, contacted Layla anonymously through her lawyer. I have files you'll want. His message read, proof of the offshore payments and cover-up deals. Marilyn's eyes widened when she read the message. He's high-level, she said. If this is true, it's the nail in their coffin. They arranged a secret meeting in a dimly lit hotel room in D.C. Gregory arrived in a disguise, nervously clutching a silver briefcase. He opened it to reveal printed ledgers and signed wire receipts linking VH1's top executives to hidden accounts used to manage talent compliance, a euphemism for hush money. Layla stared at the documents in disbelief. So they've been paying people to stay silent all along, she said. Gregory nodded grimly. They even paid off a few journalists to steer coverage away. I couldn't stay part of it. He handed her a flash drive. This is everything. Marilyn's hands shook as she took it. If we release this, she warned, the backlash will shake every network. Layla's expression hardened. Good. When the new files hit the internet 3 days later, it was chaos. The headlines were explosive. VH1 executives caught using offshore accounts to silence employees. Internal documents reveal racial pay, bias confirmed. Hollywood's exploitation machine exposed. Within hours, major networks across the industry went into emergency meetings, terrified that their own secrets might be next. The entertainment world was in full meltdown. Derek Wade resurfaced on social media, denying everything. This is a witch hunt, he tweeted. Fake files, fake outrage. But minutes later, a journalist released a voice note of Derek negotiating a hush payment with a fired producer. His credibility was obliterated. Fans flooded his page with comments like "You're finished in karma" in Empath the Reboot. As the scandal escalated, Layla's name reached every major news outlet in the country. She was invited to testify before Congress during the upcoming media ethics hearing. Marilyn prepped her for weeks, warning her that the industry would try to discredit her live. They'll dig into your past, your relationships, even your emails, she cautioned. They'll want to paint you as unstable. Layla smiled faintly. They already did. But I'm still here. The day of the hearing, cameras filled the Senate chamber. Reporters whispered, "That's her," as Layla took her seat under the blinding lights. She looked calm, almost serene. When asked to state her name, she spoke clearly. Layla Torres, former producer at VH1. Then, for the next 4 hours, she detailed everything, every manipulation, every threat, every lie. Her testimony was raw, emotional, and devastating. The audience sat silent as she described how the network intentionally underpaid black women, scripted false narratives, and silenced staff who spoke up. "They told me to destroy people's lives for ratings," she said, her voice cracking, "but I refused." By the time she finished, the entire room erupted into applause. Members of Congress promised new investigations into entertainment industry ethics. Fans outside chanted her name. That night, the headlines were unanimous. VH1 whistleblower's testimony shakes Hollywood to its core. But not everyone celebrated. Somewhere in a dark office, Renee Carter sat alone watching the coverage. She poured herself a drink, muttering, "They think this is over. They have no idea what's coming next." She reached into her desk drawer and pulled out a sealed envelope, marked classified. Merger files. Inside were documents connecting VH1's parent company to other major reality franchises worldwide. And in one corner of the folder was a name that made her smile bitterly: Layla Torres. "You wanted war," she whispered. "Now let's finish it." Hours after Layla's congressional testimony, America was buzzing. The internet had turned her into an icon overnight. Journalists called her the face of truth in television. Podcasts dissected her every word, and fan pages shared clips of her speech with captions like she didn't just speak, she exposed the system. But while the world celebrated, something far darker was unfolding behind closed doors. Renee Carter, now cornered, sat in a private jet bound for Los Angeles with a sealed envelope resting on her lap, the one marked classified. Merger files. She wasn't running. She was preparing to strike back. Her assistant, visibly nervous, asked, "What's the plan, ma'am?" Renee didn't look up. "The plan," she said coldly, "is to remind the world that power doesn't die, just changes hands." She opened the envelope and spread out the documents across the table. Inside were secret contracts between VH1's parent company and multiple global reality franchises. They showed cross-network manipulation scripts recycled between shows, character arcs deliberately written to fit racial and gender stereotypes, and even shared databases of high-conflict personalities used to cast future reality series. At the bottom of one document was a signature that made Renee smile bitterly: Gregory Sherman, the same board member who had leaked files to Layla. "Traitor," she whispered. "If she thinks she took down VH1, she's about to learn what empire means." Back at her safe house, Layla and Marilyn watched the news coverage. It was endless. Commentators, debates, and conspiracy theories. "They're saying you started a cultural revolution," Marilyn said with a hint of pride. Layla shook her head. "I didn't start it," she murmured. "I just refused to stay quiet." But deep down, she knew the story wasn't finished. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Janelle's face, the friend who vanished after helping her. She whispered to Marilyn, "I can't move on until I find out what happened to her." Marilyn hesitated. "You're still on every network's radar, Layla." "It's too dangerous." Layla's expression hardened. "Then danger's the only place the truth lives now." Meanwhile, Renee arrived in Los Angeles for a secret meeting with a shadowy group of executives from allied networks. They gathered in a dimly lit conference room, each of them representing different reality brands, some dating back decades. "We can't afford another Layla," said one gray-haired man in a tailored suit. "The next whistleblower could destroy us all." Renee tapped her fingers on the table and replied, "Then we build a firewall, not digital, human." She revealed her plan: launch a global rebranding campaign under a new holding company that would absorb VH1's assets, rename shows, and bury old scandals beneath new ones. "By the time they finish investigating VH1, she said, it won't exist anymore." The executives nodded slowly. "And what about Torres?" one asked. Renee smirked. "Let's just say we'll handle her reputation the same way she handled ours." The next morning, a coordinated smear campaign began. Dozens of anonymous sources leaked fake stories about Layla, that she had taken bribes, manipulated files, and doctored evidence. Mainstream outlets hesitated to report it, but fringe blogs and clickbait pages spread it like wildfire. Within hours, her name was trending again, this time under hashtag Layla Liar. Marilyn slammed her laptop shut in frustration. "They're using the oldest trick in the book," she snapped. "Muddy the water, make everyone doubt everything." Layla, however, looked eerily calm. "Then we clear it with proof." She opened her encrypted backup drive, one that even Marilyn didn't know existed. "When I said I had everything," she said quietly, "I meant everything." She pulled up a folder titled Renee's Circular, hidden archive she had uncovered weeks earlier but never released. Inside were confidential video calls, blackmail emails, and even a recording of Renee herself admitting that the network intentionally altered contracts to cheat lower-tier staff. "This," Layla whispered, is the bullet they can't dodge. While Marilyn worked on authenticating the new evidence, Layla reached out to Gregory Sherman. She needed confirmation that the files linked to the merger were real. But when she called his number, a stranger's voice answered, "Gregory's not available." The tone was cold, final. She hung up, uneasy. That night, Marilyn received an anonymous email. "Stop digging into Gregory. Accidents happen." Attached was a single photo, a blurry image of Layla's apartment building. Marilyn's hands trembled. "They're watching us." Layla looked at her and said, "Then let them watch. They'll see what truth looks like when it fights back." As the attacks against her intensified online, Layla decided to take control of the narrative again. She recorded a live video message, sitting in a dimly lit room with the Truth Project logo glowing behind her. "They can call me a liar," she began, her voice steady, "but lies don't come with proof. I've released every file, every recording, every signature. If I disappear, the rest of the files go public." The video was raw, powerful, and deeply human. Within hours, it went viral again, tens of millions of views across platforms. Fans began flooding comment sections with hashtag #WeBelieveLayla and hashtag #ExposeThemAll. The movement roared back to life. Across Los Angeles, Renee watched the video from her penthouse suite, her reflection flickering in the glass. "She's persistent," she muttered, "but persistence doesn't beat power." She called her legal counsel. "Activate the merger plan. We're moving ahead tonight." The next morning, the entertainment industry woke up to a bombshell press release. Introducing Prism Media Group, the future of unscripted storytelling. The release announced that VH1 had officially merged with 3 major networks to evolve the landscape of reality entertainment. The rebrand was immediate. Websites, shows, and social media handles were wiped clean overnight. It was as if VH1 had never existed. Fans were stunned. "They're erasing history," one comment read. "They're burying the scandal." But Layla wasn't fooled. She recognized the language in the release. It matched phrases from the classified merger files. "They're not cleaning up," she told Marilyn. "They're covering up." That evening, a new leak dropped anonymously on social media. It was a recorded conference call, Renee's voice unmistakable. "As of midnight, VH1 ceases to exist. We start fresh. Torres can scream all she wants, there's nothing left to expose." But the person who leaked the clip wasn't Layla. It came from inside Prism Media itself. Someone within the new empire had turned against Renee. Marilyn smiled faintly as she read the comments flooding in. "Looks like she's losing control of her own army," she said. Layla nodded slowly. "That's how corruption collapses. Not from the outside, from the inside out." She stared at her laptop, watching the internet devour the leak. "And this time," she whispered, "I won't just tell the story. I'll finish it." Meanwhile, somewhere deep within Prism Media's new headquarters, an internal memo circulated quietly between executives. Priority directive: locate and neutralize leak sources. High-risk individuals include Torres, former VH1 staff, and unverified insider under codename Mirror. The war had officially entered its final phase, and as the city slept, Layla's phone buzzed with a single message from an unknown number. It read, "Mirror wants to meet. What you think you know isn't even half of it." Layla stared at the message for a long time. Her pulse quickened as she read it again. "Mirror wants to meet. What you think you know isn't even half of it?" She turned to Marilyn, who was scanning documents across the table. "We've got another contact," Layla said softly. Marilyn looked up, cautious. "Mirror?" she repeated. "That name's shown up before in those internal memos. They're either an insider or bait." Layla exhaled slowly. "Either way, I'm meeting them." Marilyn shook her head. "You can't just walk into a trap," Layla replied firmly. "I've been in traps my whole career. The only difference is, now I know where the cameras are." The next evening, Layla arrived at an abandoned production warehouse in Los Angeles. The location had been sent through an encrypted app with strict instructions. "Come alone. No phone." She wore a hoodie and cap, blending into the night. The air inside was thick with dust and silence. Then, a voice echoed from the shadows. "I didn't think you'd actually come." A man stepped forward, early 40s, tired eyes, a familiar face. Layla froze. "Gregory." He nodded slowly. "Mirror was me." For a moment, neither spoke. Then Layla whispered, "They said you disappeared." Gregory sighed. "I had to. Prism Media isn't just a rebrand, it's a front. They're merging archives, burying scandals, and selling rights to overseas subsidiaries. What they're doing now makes the pay gap look small." He handed her a flash drive. "This is the rest of the puzzle. Everything you exposed was level 1. This goes deeper to the networks that own the networks." Layla took the drive, her hands trembling. "Why now?" Gregory's eyes darkened because they're planning something called Project Prism Pulse, a global rollout of new reality shows built on AI-driven manipulation. They're going to manufacture drama using real people's data without their consent. Emotional engineering. Audience control. It's not reality anymore. It's algorithmic chaos. And Renee Carter is leading it. Layla's stomach turned. You're saying they're weaponizing entertainment? Gregory nodded. Exactly. They call it predictive conflict modeling. It's not just about money anymore, it's about influence. Before she could respond, a faint click echoed in the distance. Gregory's expression changed instantly. We've been followed. The warehouse lights flickered. Layla turned to run, but men in black suits burst through the side door. Gregory shoved the drive into her hand. Go, he shouted. Chaos erupted. She sprinted toward a back exit as shouting and footsteps filled the room. A gunshot echoed one, then two. She didn't look back. Layla didn't stop running until she reached the next block. She ducked into an alley, gasping for breath. The drive was still in her hand, slick with sweat. She dialed Marilyn's number from a burner phone. I have it, she panted. But Gregory's down. They found us. Marilyn's voice cracked through the speaker. Get somewhere safe now. By dawn, Gregory Sherman was officially missing. Prism Media released a statement claiming he had been terminated for violating confidentiality. The story made no mention of the warehouse or the gunfire. Layla hid in a friend's basement, connecting the drive to her laptop. Files opened one by one: encrypted spreadsheets, confidential project briefs, video memos from high-level executives across multiple networks. One memo chilled her. Phase 2 begins. Q1 emotional data integration complete. Subjects unaware. She whispered, they're not just manipulating cast members, they're manipulating the audience. Marilyn joined her later that day, bringing 2 journalists she trusted. They sat together, watching the evidence unfold on screen. One journalist muttered, this could collapse the entertainment industry. Marilyn replied coldly, good. They agreed to coordinate a release, one that couldn't be stopped by takedown orders or smear campaigns. They divided the files across international servers and scheduled a synchronized publication. 3 days later, the drop went live worldwide. The headline blazed across every screen. Project Prism exposed: how networks used AI to manipulate reality. The files showed that Prism Media had built algorithms to analyze audience reactions in real time, then fed that data back into editing rooms to manufacture conflict and emotional arcs optimized for outrage. Worse, some of the real arguments and scandals had been provoked using scripted misinformation given to cast members through fake anonymous messages. The internet was horrified. Fans realized that even their online reactions, their tweets, comments, and debates had been used to shape future episodes. They weren't just viewers, they were lab rats. Overnight, the entertainment industry descended into chaos. Lawmakers called for hearings. Networks suspended operations. Even celebrities who'd once defended reality TV now demanded reform. One viral post summed it up: they didn't just exploit the cast, they exploited us. Renee Carter, cornered at last, released a statement blaming rogue contractors. But hours later, an anonymous video surfaced her voice on a recorded call saying, people don't want truth, they want drama. And we give them what they crave. It was the final nail in her coffin. The next day, she resigned from Prism Media, effective immediately. Layla watched the news from a quiet cafe under a false name. Her face was tired, her voice almost gone. Marilyn sat beside her, scrolling through endless messages of gratitude from fans and journalists. You did it, Marilyn whispered. You ended them. Layla shook her head softly. No, she said, eyes distant. I didn't end them. I just reminded the world to look behind the screen. And as the sun rose over Los Angeles, headlines around the world declared, VH1 whistleblower brings down global entertainment empire. But deep in the shadows of a server farm outside the city, one red light blinked steadily. Project Prism wasn't gone, it had already moved to a new name. Under a new network, with a familiar tagline, based on true stories. So here's the truth, and it's bigger than VH1, bigger than Hollywood. Bigger than anything we've ever been told about reality television. What started as one woman standing up against unfair pay turned into a full-blown revolution that exposed the entire machinery behind the world's most addictive shows. The faces we cheered for, the fights we argued about, the storylines we believed in. Of it was ever just entertainment. It was manipulation dressed as reality. And when one brave producer refused to stay silent, She didn't just risk her job, she risked her life to pull back the curtain. But now, the question isn't just about VH1 anymore. It's about us. How much of what we see is real? How much of what we feel has been engineered to keep us watching, commenting, fighting? Maybe the real scandal isn't what they did, it's how easily we believed it. And maybe, just maybe, this is our wake-up call to demand something better. Layla Torres stood up when no one else would, and her courage reminded the world that truth still matters, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's dangerous. Her story isn't just about one network, it's about every system built on silence. Because if she hadn't leaked those files, we'd still be watching fake stories, thinking they were real. We'd still be part of their experiment without ever knowing it. So as we wrap up tonight's story, ask yourself, what would you have done if you were in Layla's place? Would you risk everything to tell the truth, or stay silent to stay safe? Because heroes aren't born in comfort, they're made in chaos. If you made it this far, you already know this channel doesn't sugarcoat the truth. We expose it. We break it down. We show you what the headlines won't. So if you believe in real stories, in people who fight back when the odds are impossible, hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a comment below and tell us, do you think Hollywood will ever change, or will the system just rebuild itself under another name? And remember, every view, every like, every share spreads the truth a little further. So share this video, because the more people see what's really happening behind the camera, the harder it becomes for them to hide it. Stay alert, stay questioning, and never forget, sometimes the most dangerous reality is the one they script for you.